That the road, it was cut straight. You can see the whole dirt area on the east side of the street where it's been cut, and you can see where the center line of the street here is on 106th. Now when you look at an assessor's map, everything is straight. Everything's in straight lines. I know a contractor who delivered the asphalt for this particular project. The contractors asked, how come you're not putting the asphalt down the center of the road and the way the plan looks? And they were just told by the county, just do what we say. The contractor said that primarily what they thought was that the county hugged all the residents and all of the intersections on the west side of the street because there were no homes or intersections on the east side of the street. And if they would have put the street in the center, if they would have put the asphalt in the center, then they would have had to fill each intersection with additional asphalt to meet where the street would be. And if you've got 7 intersections at, say, $25,000 per intersection for the asphalt, well, that adds up to quite a bit of money. So to cut the budget or to come under budget or whatever, there's a whole bunch of us that think that's the reason why the street hugs the west side of the residence. Okay, getting back to the letter of May 1st, 2017, there's a couple of issues here. The first issue in regard to all of this is any obstructions or the visibility of our cross streets here off of 106th Street when you're approaching or going on to 6th Street, when you're actually turning onto the street itself. In regard to the encroachment, once again, the violation on December 19th stated the fact that the fence line needed to be 34 feet back or 34 feet from the center line. And so there's a couple of things here, encroachment and then our visibility triangle at each intersection, which I think that should be the most important part of this issue altogether, seeing how the violation was written because of a complaint, a visibility complaint from S10 going on to 106th Street East. But let's take a look at every one of the intersections on the street, okay? Right now, we are approaching S14 and 106th Street. This has a limit line. This street has a limit line. As I go up to the limit line, when I look to the south, that being the south, when I look to the south, primarily what they're saying is because the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, we need to be able to see 430 feet up the road. Well, here at this intersection, at the limit line, I can see maybe 100 feet or so. And then when I look to the north, I can't see hardly anything, especially when it would include oncoming traffic coming my way. Now, as I go out, most all the neighbors out here, we drive defensively, and we go out and we sort of peek, and you can see that we can peek here. And at this point, now I can see to the north, I can see that 430 foot mark, except for the neighbor on the south. He's got a bush that's in the way. And let's talk about fence lines too. The fence line here at S14 is approximately 22 to 24 feet from the center line. And then when we look to the north, again, that's about 25 foot, maybe 24 to 25 foot from the center line. Okay, and we're going to go down to S12 next. Right now we are approaching Avenue S12 and 106th Street. There is no limit line whatsoever. As I approach the street, the fence to the south, that's at 22 feet. And my fence to the north from the center line is at 21 feet. It is not 34 feet. And to be able to see that 430-foot spot, I'm out. Now I'm actually out into the street a bit from both sides. Okay, now we're approaching S10. Initially in the letter dated May 1st, S10 was the intersection where the complaint was, the visibility complaint was. And so let's look at this visibility triangle. What the neighbor has done is the neighbor has taken out a lot of vegetation that follows his fence line, which does enable us now to see down the street quite a bit. There is no limit line on this street whatsoever. The neighbor to the south, his fence line is at 31 feet. Now, his home was not built until the 80s. In fact, the majority of the homes built in this area weren't built until the 1980s. Remember, my home, along with my neighbor's home, were built in the 50s. My home being the very first home and property developed in this region. So as we creep out a little bit further, you know, we can see, again, his fence is a little bit in the way, but when he moved that vegetation, you could see pretty good. Now I can see clearly to either direction. I am just barely out into the street itself. Once again, if they had put the street where it was supposed to be, you would have at least a good 4 or 5, up to maybe 10 feet out. And at that point, you would have a true intersection with a visibility triangle that would be no problem whatsoever. But because the road is not in the center of where the road is supposed to be, there's this visibility problem, period. So, you know, I mean, other than, you know, trying to just do something with fences, there's other things that the road department could do to correct this problem, instead of hitting all the taxpayers that pay them. Boy, they got a little dash devil coming through there. Okay, we'll go down to my street. Okay, we're now approaching my corner. This is the intersection at S8 and 106th Street. What I did was I had reed fencing up, and what I did was I took that reed fencing down, and as I approached the limit line, which I'm at the limit line about now, as I look, I can actually see my sawhorse from here. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I can see my sawhorse. What I had suggested to the road department, though, is if they move the limit line up about a foot, which would be here, well, you can clearly see that sawhorse now, and that's 430 feet. And I'm not in traffic whatsoever. I'm not in traffic whatsoever. Anyway, our fence line is at 21 feet from the center line. Now, when you come over to the north, my neighbor, his home, again, wasn't built until the 80s. He is at 31 feet, all right? But really, all you need to do on this intersection is really just move that limit line up about a foot. In fact, if they moved the entire road over about 5 to 10 feet where it should be, and where the center line would be, you could put together real intersections, and you could put white lines on either side of the road designating the road itself. And they do that on some of our larger streets, like on Avenue S. They have white lines on either side of the road that designates where the roadway is as far as the drivable roadway. Oh, hang on. Let's go. Okay. Okay, we're approaching Avenue S6 and 106th. As we come to the stop sign and as we look south, the neighbor's fence is in the way. As I come out further, I would say I am not in the roadway as of yet, and now I can see clearly the 430-foot distance. His fence line is at 26 feet from the center line, and it's approximately 26 or 27 feet to the neighbor to the north and his fence line. But so far, nobody has a fence line of 34 feet from the center line of the street. Okay, we're approaching S4 and 106th Street. Now this neighbor to the south, he's got his fence cut in, which I'm going to suggest that I do with my fence on S8, cut in a bit. But again, you know, the 400, right now I can see from where I'm sitting, I can see the 430-foot mark. I'm not in the roadway. However, the home to the north, if you look, you can't see the oncoming traffic. Once again, these fence lines are at about 27 feet from the center line. I've got to come out to about here. I am just now getting into the roadway before I can see that 430 feet going to the north. That's one thing. And once again, you know, we're talking about visibility triangles here in people's property lines and encroachments and this and that and the other thing. So there's quite a few things that involve your visibility triangles. To tell you the truth, I don't even know in a residential rural area if there's such thing as a visibility triangle. Usually that's in commercial areas. Okay, we are approaching S2 and 106th Street. As I come to the stop sign, I've got no visibility with that wall. I got to come, in fact, the south wall, go back to that, the south wall, that is 26 feet from the center line. And then to my north, that is 24 feet from the center line. And to get my 430 foot of view, right, that's about good there. I'm not quite in the, well, I'm in the roadway to the south. So, but I can totally see clearly there. Let me back up just a little bit. So right about here is where I could see the 430 mark. I've gotten real used to seeing that 430 mark because I've mocked it up out here. But still to the south, you can't see it. You got to creep out. It's called defensive driving, friends and neighbors. If the person who filed the complaint was a defensive driver, you know, I can't believe, you know, after 65 years that a complaint happens. So I have a feeling that it could be somebody who either doesn't like me or my neighbor because it was an anonymous complaint. Now, when we're talking about properties, this last property on the end is real interesting because as we approach the intersection, it's not a blind intersection either, really. Well, coming around the corner from the other side it is. But the thing that's interesting about this property is this property line, the fence line to the center of the road is 17 feet. That's 17 feet. So I don't see how you come around there. Well, you don't really see much of anything when you're coming around that corner. You're on it. If you look, as you just look to the east here, look down the roadway and you can see the white line that I'm referring to that designates the road. See, they could actually widen the road on 106th Street to the correct width and to the center, and then use the white lines on either side of the road to designate the road itself. You know, there's all kinds of solutions to this particular problem other than blaming the property owner. You know, it's just ridiculous. Another thing is in RCSD, which is a community standards for Little Rock, in regard to public right-of-way or whatnot, we don't allow sidewalks in our residential areas. This is rural America. These are farmers. We've got chickens and cows and we've got orchards. We've got lots of lots of people who grow food here. We grow fruit and vegetables, and we have livestock. It's all the properties out here are A1 or A2. That's agricultural properties. These residentials are all agricultural, and it's just sort of our way of life. And a lot of these properties used to be farmland, my property included. And that's what I don't get. It's like, why did the county not contact the owners when they surveyed the road to tell them that they were in the road right-of-way to begin with? How come it took them 65 years to say, oh, well, your property is in the road right-of-way or in the public right-of-way? It just doesn't make any sense. Even in 1983, why didn't they say that these properties were in the road right-of-way when they put the first section of asphalt down? Surely the county surveyed the road. And then again in 1992, when they laid the rest of the asphalt down, surely the county surveyed the road. When they surveyed the road, why did they not contact the owners of these properties to tell them that they were in the right-of-way of the road or the public right-of-way? There's a thing in civil court, it's called a statute of limitations. Statute of limitations can be anywhere from 1 year to 10 years. And a statute of limitations, and the point of discovery, they base it on discovery. Discovery is when you find out the fact, or when the fact was indeed put in place. And the fact which was indeed put in place would have been 1983, when they surveyed the front of my property and they surveyed the front of my neighbor's property to put the first strip of asphalt down. And then the statute of limitations in 1992. Well, you know what, friends and neighbors? It's 2017. Why does it take a complaint for them to have portion of discovery? Discovery was in 1983. Discovery was in 1992. And the 10 years has come and gone. Absolutely come and gone.